Module 2. The stages of development and development tasks. For every developmental stage, there is an expected developmental task. But the question is, what happens when the expected developmental tasks are not achieved at the corresponding developmental stage? How can you help children achieve these developmental tasks? Let's find out the answer in this video.
Now for the Big Mama developmental milestones, also called stages of development. These are a list of skills that most children can do by a certain age, including physical motor skills, language, as well as social cognitive skills. Now it's not just another list to memorize here. This is actually very crucial for a child's future. So let me explain. If a child does not meet their key developmental milestones for their age, it can indicate a delay in development and could result in severe disablement if not caught early and addressed early. This is why it's so very important for you, the nurse, to identify children who do not meet these developmental milestones and to report it to the HCP immediately. So that being said, I know there's a lot here, but I'm going to highlight some very critical areas that the NCLEX focuses on, and it's usually between 2 months and the 2-year mark. So first on the list here is age 1 month. The gross motor skill is head lag. They have very poor head control. And the fine motor skills that they're developing is the grasp reflex, 0 to 3 months, the Babinski reflex, 0 to 12 months, the rooting reflex, 0 to 4 months, and the tonic neck reflex, 0 to 4 months, which we cover more in full detail in the physical exam lecture. Now, language that they're learning is responding to touch and voices, as well as sensory motor communication. And as far as social cognitive, they often find safety with caregivers and looks at the faces of their caregivers. Now, age 2 to 3 months, a huge NCLEX tip to write down, is the gross motor skill of kicking their legs. So the memory trick to write down is 2 legs are being kicked at 2 months of age, and raising their head when prone, as well as less head lag. Now the fine motor skill is the grasp reflex often diminishes between this age. And the language that they're developing is responding to sound, as well as they're able to make sounds with their mouth. And for social cognitive, they always show smiles and coos when seeing a familiar face. Big NCLEX tip. So the memory trick, smiles at the 2nd month. Now for 4 to 5 months old, the gross motor skill that is to be seen is no more head lag. So we always report if head lag is seen after 4 months. Huge NCLEX tip. Be sure to write that down. So the memory trick, just think after month 4, head lag no more. Now the NCLEX and most nursing exams refer to this as infant's head stays behind the shoulders when raised from supine to sitting position. This is what they mean by head lag. So once again, infant's head stays behind the shoulders when raised from supine to sitting position. So be sure to know these key terms here. And another gross motor skill is at 5 months, they can roll from front to back, as mentioned by Kaplan and ATI. Now for the fine motor skills, a big one on the HESI was grabbing objects voluntarily. For example, this age group grabs a rattle. Now we also see the diminishing of the motor reflex, also called the startle reflex, as well as other reflexes. And for language, they often mimic sounds that are heard, and they're able to change the cry tone for different needs. Now for social cognitive, they're often soothed by caregivers' voices and copies the expression of caregivers and other people they're around. And they often cry when they don't get their way. So moving on to 6 to 9 months, a big thing to write down is birth weight doubles at 6 months. Huge NCLEX tip. I'll say it like 5 times for you guys. Birth weight doubles at 6 months. Okay, maybe only 2 times. So be sure to write that down. Also, 6 to 9 months, they can roll from their back to front and can sit up unsupported and can pull self up. So a real big safety concern is removing musical mobiles from the crib, because these infants can pull themselves up and strangle themselves with those musical mobile strings. Now for fine motor skills, 6 months old can hold a big bottle. And at 7 months, they can transfer objects from one hand to the other. And for language, a really big one here is they can babble words, or babbling words, as mentioned by ATI. For example, mama and dada. And this age group can often respond to their own name. Now, a big one again to write down is not babbling at 9 months. We must report it. Huge, huge, huge. So be sure to write that down. If the child is not babbling at 9 months, we must report it to the provider. And for cognitive and social skills, they can identify faces and strangers.
After watching the video, we are now familiar with the stages of development, from the prenatal stage to the late adulthood stage. In each stage of development, a certain task or tasks are expected of every individual. Robert Havighurst defines a development task as one that arises at a certain period in life, the achievement of which leads to happiness and success while failure leads to unhappiness, social disapproval, and difficulty. Now we will talk about the prenatal stage from conception to birth. It involves tremendous growth from a single cell to an organism complete with brain and behavioral capabilities. The progress before birth. There are 3 stages of prenatal development. The germinal stage. The first 2 weeks of the baby. This refers to the conception, implantation, and the formation of the placenta. Second is the embryonic stage. From 2 weeks to 2 months of the development. This stage experiences the formation of the vital organs and systems of the baby. And the last is the fetal stage. From 2 months to birth. At this stage, the bodily growth continues. The movement capability begins. And at the same time the brain cells of the baby multiply by the age of viability. Now we will talk about the infancy stage from conception to 2 years. A time of extreme dependence on adults. Many psychological activities are just beginning, like language, symbolic thought, sensorimotor coordination, and social learning. The characteristics of a baby from birth. They have extreme dependence on adults. They are on the stage of beginning psychological activities. And also their language is crying. Babies at this stage usually eats every 2 to 3 hours. They have uncoordinated movements. They are toothless. Has poor vision. And responds to human voice and touch. At 1 year old. The baby has the characteristics of changing physically from a plump baby to a leaner, more muscular toddler. They begin to walk and talk. They have the ability for passive language. This means that they have a better understanding of what is being said. Also, they have a tentative sense of independence. At the same time considered as determined explorer. At 2 years old. The baby begins to communicate verbally. They can usually speak in 3 to 4 word sentences. Also, they are famous for negative behavior like tantrums. At this stage, the child will play side by side with other children but does not actively play with them. And also they are considered as great imitators. Now we will talk about the early childhood stage from 3 to 5 years. These are the preschool years. Young children learn to become more self-sufficient and to care for themselves, develop school readiness skills, and spend many hours in play with peers. At 3 years old, the child wants to be just like the parents. Their vocabulary and pronunciation continue to expand. At this stage the child starts to climb stairs with alternating feet. And also, they can briefly stand on 1 foot. At 4 years old, the child speaks well enough for strangers to understand with more complex sentences. At this stage the imagination is vivid. This means the line between what is real and imaginary is often indistinct. Also, at this age the child develops fears such as fear of the dark, fear of animals and fear of death. At 5 years old, the child can hop on 1 foot and skip. They can accurately copy figures and may begin to read. They also do socialize with other children at their age. Now we will talk about the middle and late childhood stage from 6 to 12 years. These are the elementary school years. They mastered the fundamental skills of reading, writing, and arithmetic. The child is formally exposed to the larger world and its culture. Achievements are becoming a more central theme of the child's world and self-control increases. At these ages 6 to 12 years old, both large and small muscles are well developed. At these ages, children develop complex motor skills. They can also experience activities from independent to same-sex group activities. Acceptance by peers is very important at these ages. Moreover, parental approval is still important. Now we will talk about the adolescent stage ages from 13 to 18 years. It begins with rapid physical changes like dramatic gains in height and weight, changes in body contour, and the development of sexual characteristics such as enlargement of the breast, development of pubic and facial hair, and deepening of the voice. The pursuit of independence and identity is prominent. Thought is more logical, abstract, and idealistic. More time is spent outside the family. Youngsters at these ages from 13 to 18 years experience traumatic life stage for child and parent. At these ages, puberty occurs. Youngsters are extremely concerned with appearance. At these ages, they are trying to establish self-identity. Also, youngsters are more on confrontations with authority. Now we will talk about the early adulthood or young adult stage from 19 to 29 years. This is the time of establishing personal and economic independence, career development, selecting a mate, learning to live with someone in an intimate way, starting a family and rearing children. Adults at these ages experience complete physical development. The emotional maturation continues to develop. Adults at these ages usually learn to accept responsibility for actions and accept criticism. Also, they usually know how to profit from errors. And at the same time, they socially progress from age-related peer groups to people with similar interests. Now we will talk about the middle adulthood stage ages from 30 to 60 years. It is a time of expanding personal and social involvement and responsibility, assisting the next generation in becoming competent and mature individuals, and reaching and maintaining satisfaction in a career. At these ages, physical changes begin to occur, the hair begins to thin and gray. The wrinkles appear. And the hearing and vision decrease. Also, muscles lose tone. At these ages, the main concerns are about children, health, job security, aging parents, and fear of aging. Moreover, adults at these ages take a major role in love and acceptance. Let's have the last stage of development. The late adulthood from 61 years and above. It is a time for adjustment to decreasing strength and health, life review, retirement, and adjustment to new social roles. At these ages, fastest growing age bracket in society. They experience physical deterioration like brittle bones and poor coordination. They also experience some memory problems. Moreover, adults at these ages are coping with retirement and forms of entertainment. They are very concerned with health and finances. And also a significant number at these ages become depressed, and the worst, the suicide rate is high. This time, you will see the table of development tasks proposed by Robert Havikhurst. The 8 developmental stages cited by Santrock which were discussed earlier are the same as Havikhurst's 6 developmental stages, only that Havikhurst did not include the prenatal period. He combined infancy and early childhood as shown in the table presented. And that ends the Module 2. The stages of development and development tasks. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have learned from this video.